The USN Sentinel drifted silently through the dark of the Perseus Arm, its running lights dimmed to near invisibility. Captain Ryan Blake leaned forward in his command chair, fingers steepled under his chin as he watched the tactical display. A single red blip pulsed at the edge of sensor range, growing larger by the second. Confirmed Vorac signature, Lieutenant Chen reported from the sensor station. Her voice was steady, but her knuckles whitened around the edge of her console. Ravager, Class Hunter, Killer, designation Bloodclaw. Blake didn't flinch. He'd expected this. The Vorac had been shadowing human expansion routes for months, testing defenses, probing for weakness. Their ships looked like nightmares given form, jagged, organic hulls that pulsed with bioluminescent veins, weapons that fired spines of hardened chitin, capable of piercing steel. "Open a channel," Blake said. The comm officer hesitated. "Sir, standard protocol. Do it." Static crackled as the connection established. The view screen flickered to life, revealing the nightmare visage of Huntmaster Krazak. The Vorac commander's segmented carapace gleamed under the sickly green light of his bridge, his 4 compound eyes reflecting the glow-like polished obsidian. Mandibles twitched in what humans had learned was the equivalent of a grin. "Aha!" Krazak hissed, his voice like grinding bone. "The Sofkin captain. How delicious." Blake kept his expression neutral. "This is human space, Huntmaster. Turn your ship around." Krazak's laughter was a wet, clicking sound. "Your space? You barely understand the stars, little meat. The Vorac have hunted between galaxies, while your ancestors still crawled in mud." On the tactical display, the Bloodclaw loomed closer. It dwarfed the Sentinel, its spiked hull bristling with weapon ports. Blake's crew exchanged glances, but no one spoke. They drilled for this. "You're making a mistake," Blake said quietly. Krazak's mandibles spread wide. "Mistake? No, this is sport. Your Federation friends have already written you off. They call your ships toys." A clawed limb gestured dismissively. "Steel hulls, chemical propulsion. How quaint." The Sentinel shuddered as the first impact struck, a glancing blow from a bioplasma harpoon that sizzled against the shields. Alarms blared. "Shields at Fay%, Chen reported. Blake didn't take his eyes off Krazak. "Last warning, withdraw." The Vorac's laughter grew louder. "Or what? You'll ask harder?" Another impact, the lights flickered, shields failing. Blake tapped a sequence into his armrest console. A single encrypted transmission pulsed outward, too fast for Vorac sensors to intercept. Then he leaned back, folding his arms. Krazak tilted his head. "No, please." No screams. How disappointing. Blake smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. "Run if you can, Huntmaster." The Vorac's amusement faded. "What? The hunt has only just begun." Krazak snarled an order, and the Bloodclaw's main weapons array glowed to life. A massive biocannon, its barrel dripping corrosive enzymes. The Sentinel's shields were failing. The crew braced. Then space rippled. For the first time, Krazak looked uncertain. What? The Sentinel's engines flared, not in retreat, but in a controlled burn that sent the ship spiraling toward the Bloodclaw. At the same moment, every system on the human vessel powered down, life support, weapons, even the distress beacon. The Sentinel went dark. Krazak's command deck erupted in chaos. Where are they going? Why would they? A junior hunter stammered. The human ship. It is empty. Krazak whirled to the sensor displays. The Sentinel drifted now, a dead husk, its airlocks sealed, no heat signatures, no movement. Just a single, blinking device in its main hangar. The Vorac Huntmaster felt the first cold trickle of fear. "What have you done, human?" Blake's voice echoed from the dead ship's comms, recorded but no less chilling. "You'll see." Then space tore open behind the Bloodclaw. The grand chamber of the Galactic Federation hummed with the idle chatter of 100 species. Floating pods arranged in concentric circles held delegates from across the Orion Arm, their varied forms draped in silks, exoskeletons polished to a shine, or bioluminescent patterns flickering with amusement. At the center of it all, Ambassador Lisa Hayes stood on the human delegation's modest platform, her hands clasped behind her back as holographic displays above her showed burning human colonies on the frontier. A Zephyrian delegate lounged in his pod, his forearms draped over the sides as he watched the reports with undisguised glee. His scales shimmered violet with amusement. "Another human world falls to the Vorac," he announced to the chamber, his voice dripping with mock concern. How tragic, how inevitable. Lisa didn't flinch. She'd spent 3 weeks pleading before this council, watching the same smirks, hearing the same dismissals. Today would be different. The Cerulean delegate floated nearby, her orb, like body pulsing with faint light. "Really, Ambassador? What did you expect? Your species barely has warp capability. Your largest warship is smaller than a Vorac scout vessel." She gestured at the holograms where the jagged organic shapes of Vorac ravagers descended on human settlements. This was always going to happen. A murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber. The Phosphorian representative clacked his beak like mouthparts. "The strong consume the weak. This is the natural order. The Vorac are simply culling the herd." Lisa allowed herself a small, cold smile. She tapped her wrist display, and the holograms shifted to show the official Federation vote tally from yesterday. "And yet, when we requested aid, when we invoked the Mutual Defense Clause, this council voted unanimously to abandon humanity." She let that hang in the air for a moment. "Tell me, High Speaker Vrel, how does the Federation justify breaking its own charter?" The Zephyrian Vrel bristled, his scales darkening to an angry crimson. "The charter protects civilized species, not primitive upstarts who still use chemical propulsion." His upper pair of arms gestured dismissively. "Your ships are made of steel, Ambassador Steel. The Vorac will melt them down for scrap before lunch." Laughter echoed through the chamber. A hulking Gorthax delegate wheezed through his respiratory vents, his massive frame shaking with mirth. "Humans as warriors. That is rich. Your soldiers don't even have natural armor. One good plasma burst and he made an exploding motion with his claws." Lisa waited for the laughter to die down. She took a slow breath, counting the faces of those who'd mocked her people for weeks. Then she tapped her display again. The holograms changed to show the Vorac fleet movements, their tendrils stretching deeper into human space. "You're right about one thing," she said quietly. "This was always going to happen." The chamber fell silent. Vrel's scales flickered uncertainly. "What is that supposed to mean?" Lisa met his gaze. "It means the Vorac are exactly where we want them." She nodded to the displays. "Every world they've taken, every ship they've destroyed, all according to plan." A stunned silence. Then the Cerulean delegate pulsed with nervous light. "You're bluffing. Your fleet strength is a matter of public record. 12 capital ships, all outdated. The Vorac have hundreds." Lisa smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. "Oh, those old things. We keep them around for show, good for keeping the neighbors guessing." She leaned forward slightly. "Tell me, delegates, did you really think humanity survived this long by being weak?" Vrel's scales cycled through several colors before settling on an uneasy blue. "If you're suggesting—" "I'm suggesting nothing," Lisa interrupted. She tapped her display one final time. The hologram zoomed out to show the entire Perseus arm, with Vorac fleet positions marked in red. Tiny green dots began appearing behind their lines. Dozens at first, then hundreds. "I'm telling you that in 6 hours, the Vorac will learn why humanity never joined your precious Federation." She turned to leave her podium. "We didn't need your protection. We were giving you ours." The chamber erupted. Vrel shot upright in his pod. "You can't possibly. Those are fleet signatures. Where did you hide all those ships?" Lisa paused at the edge of the platform. She didn't turn around, wherever we damn well pleased. She took a sip from the coffee cup that had been sitting untouched during the entire session, still warm. Told you you'd see soon. The Zephyrian's voice cracked as he called after her. What are your people? Lisa Hayes walked out without answering. Behind her, the chamber dissolved into chaos as the green dots kept multiplying on the displays. The last thing she heard before the doors closed was the Cerulean delegate whispering. They played the long game. While we laughed, they prepared for war. The Sentinel drifted in the void, her engines dark. Captain Ryan Blake watched the Vorac Ravager Bloodclaw loom closer through the bridge viewport, its jagged hull blotting out the stars. The ship's organic, looking armor pulsed with bioluminescent veins, a predator circling wounded prey. Captain, Ensign Cho said, her fingers hovering over the dead console. They're hailing us again. Blake didn't turn, put it through. Huntmaster Krazak's face filled the screen, his chitinous jaw clicking in amusement. No more tricks, Softkin, no desperate escape? His 4 eyes gleamed. I expected more from your species. Blake smiled. It wasn't the smile of a defeated man. It was the smile of someone who knew something his enemy didn't. We're full of surprises. Krazak's mandibles twitched. Your ship is dead. Your weapons offline. What surprise could you possibly... Ensign, Blake said quietly. Execute Protocol Blackbird. Cho tapped a single key, somewhere deep in the Sentinel's hull. A sequence activated. Krazak's amusement vanished. What did you do? Blake leaned back in his chair. You'll see. The transmission cut abruptly. On the Bloodclaw's bridge, Krazak snarled at his sensor officers. Scan that ship. I want every system analyzed. Nothing, Huntmaster, a Vorac technician reported. No energy spikes, no weapons charging. Just a single repeating signal from their comms array. Krazak's claws dug into his command throne. Signal to where? The technician hesitated. Everywhere. Boarding pods slammed into the Sentinel's hull like parasitic spores. Vorac warriors poured through the breaches, their armored exoskeletons scraping against the human ship's corridors. They expected resistance. They found silence. Where are they? Growled Vexis, Krazak's second in command. His thermal scanners showed no life signs. The ship was empty. A warrior kicked open the bridge doors. The command chairs sat vacant. Only a single blinking device on the captain's console broke the stillness. Vexis approached cautiously. The device was human, made its display counting down from 30 seconds. He snarled and crushed it under his claw. The countdown didn't stop. Krazak watched from the Bloodclaw as his warriors reported in. No crew, no bodies, just an empty ship and that damned signal. Then his sensor officer screamed. Huntmaster, multiple contacts emerging from slip space. Krazak whirled. Where? Everywhere. Space itself seemed to shudder. Ripples of distorted light spread across the system like cracks in glass. Then, with a silent burst of energy, the void split open. Ships poured through, not the primitive steel vessels the Federation mocked. Sleek, black, matte warships with angular hulls and railgun batteries humming with pent-up energy, hundreds of them. At their head, the USN Defiance locked targeting solutions on the Bloodclaw. Krazak's comms crackled to life. A human voice, calm and deadly, filled the bridge. Vorac Fleet, this is Admiral Jake Morrison of the United Earth Stellar Navy. You have attacked a human vessel. You have threatened our species. A pause. This was your first mistake. Krazak's claws trembled. All ships, battle stations. Fire at. The Defiance's railguns spoke first. 3 Vorac Ravagers disintegrated before Krazak's eyes, their organic armor offering no more resistance than wet paper. Secondary explosions rippled through the formation as human torpedoes found their marks. On the Sentinel's empty bridge, the countdown hit 0. The ship's reactor went critical. The explosion tore through the Bloodclaw's boarding pods, vaporizing the warriors still inside. Krazak's ship lurched, alarms wailing. Damage report, he bellowed. Port side armor breached. Engines failing, Huntmaster. We have to. The Defiance's second salvo silenced the officer permanently. The Bloodclaw's bridge erupted in fire and shrapnel. Krazak was thrown to the deck, his exoskeleton cracking under the impact. He dragged himself to the viewport. Human fighters streaked past, their guns shredding Vorac escorts. The Defiance advanced, her railguns cycling for another volley. Krazak's mandibles worked soundlessly. Where are the humans? Admiral Morrison's voice answered, as if hearing the unspoken question. Right behind you. The last thing Krazak saw was the Defiance's main battery glowing white. Hot. Then his world ended in fire. The bridge of the world render shook as Vorac Overlord Vexis slammed his clawed fist against the command throne. Where did they come from? He roared, his four eyes scanning the tactical displays that now blazed with hundreds of new contacts. The void behind the crippled sentinel shimmered like heat haze over a desert. Then reality itself seemed to fracture as the first human warships tore through their stealth fields. Admiral Jake Morrison's face appeared on every Vorac screen, his image crisp against the backdrop of the USN Defiance's command center. The humans hadn't been hiding behind steel and primitive armor. Their ships were sleek obsidian daggers, their hulls absorbing sensor scans like black holes. Railgun turrets the size of skyscrapers hummed to life along their spines. You hunted us. Morrison's voice was calm, almost conversational. No, we hunted you. The first salvo lit up the darkness. Magnetic accelerators hurled tungsten rods at relativistic speeds. Vorac Ravagers, ships that had crushed 100 species, exploded like overripe fruit. The Bloodclaw, Krazak's pride, vanished in a flash of plasma before the Huntmaster could even scream. On the World Render's bridge, tactical officers scrambled. Shields at zero, shrieked a subordinate, his carapace flushing panic. Red, their weapons ignore our Vexis watched in horror as a human cruiser, barely a third the size of his dreadnought, pivoted with impossible grace. Its railguns fired again. 3 of his escort ships disintegrated. Return fire, he bellowed. The Vorac plasma lances lashed out, only to splash harmlessly against the human's energy, diffusing armor. A junior officer whimpered. Overlord, their ships don't even dent. Morrison's voice crackled across the comms again. You like games, Vexis? Let's play. The Defiance surged forward, flanked by 24 sister ships. Their formation was perfect, their movements synchronized like a school of terrestrial piranhas. Vexis had seen footage of Earth predators. He finally understood why humans found them beautiful. All batteries concentrate fire, Vexis ordered. The World Render's spinal cannon charged, its organic coils glowing hellish orange. The weapon had cracked planetary fortresses. It fired. The humans dodged, not evaded, not retreated. Dodged, the Defiance rolled sideways with the casual ease of a fighter jet, the plasma bolt passing close enough to scorch its stealth coating. Then it retaliated. A single railgun round punched through the World Render's bridge viewport. The transparent alloy, designed to withstand asteroid impacts, shattered like glass. Atmosphere roared out into the void, carrying with it 3 Vorac officers. Vexis barely had time to activate his mag boots before the next impact rocked the ship. Damage report, he screamed over the klaxons. Primary engines offline. Life support failing on decks 7 through. The officer's words cut off as another salvo struck. The dreadnought's starboard side crumpled inward, entire sections venting fire into space. On the Defiance, Morrison watched the carnage with cold satisfaction. His XO Commander Alvarez whistled. They fold faster than cardboard. Because they've never fought someone who hits back, Morrison said. He opened a fleet-wide channel. All vessels, advance, clean-up detail. The human fleet moved as one, where the Vorac had expected clumsy, predictable movements. They found predators. Cruisers darted between the larger Ravagers, their point defense lasers swatting boarding pods from the sky like insects. Fighter squadrons, small, agile, and terrifyingly precise, harried the flanks. A Vorac transmission cut through the interference. Human Admiral? Vexus's voice was ragged. You deceive the galaxy. Morrison leaned back in his chair. We showed you exactly what you expected to see. The World Render's engine sputtered. Its once proud hull now a pockmarked ruin. Vexus's image flickered on screen. His carapace cracked from some unseen impact. Your species will pay for this, he hissed. The Federation will... Watch, Morrison interrupted. Like they always do. He nodded to his comms officer. Patch in Ambassador Hayes. Let the Federation see this. The battle unfolded in real time across 100 council chambers. The Zephyrians, so smug hours earlier, watched in stunned silence as human warships dismantled the Vorac fleet. The Cerellians' floating orbs dimmed in shock. Even the Phosphorians, who communicated in bursts of radioactive light, fell eerily still. On the Defiance's tactical display, the last Vorac strongpoints collapsed. Morrison keyed the fleet-wide comm. Cease fire. The guns fell silent. The Vorac survivors drifted, their ships broken, their pride shattered. Vexus's voice was a whisper. What are you? Morrison smiled. The reason your empire falls today. He turned to Alvarez. Send the terms of surrender, and get me a secure line to Cententrum. As the human fleet consolidated its victory, a single message propagated across the galactic networks. A data packet from the Sentinel, finally decrypted. It contained just 3 words. Let them come. The Grand Federation Chamber, usually a place of orderly debate, erupted into chaos. Holograms flickered violently as real. Time battle data streamed across the central display. Ambassador Lisa Hayes watched with quiet satisfaction as Vorac ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light, their organic hulls torn apart by human railgun fire. The Zephyrian high speaker's tendrils stiffened in shock. This cannot be real. Those are Vorac dreadnoughts. His voice cracked as another capital ship disintegrated on screen. A Phosphorian delegate's bioluminescent spots pulsed erratically. Their weapons. By the void, their weapons cut through Vorac armor like it is nothing. Lisa sipped her coffee, the steam curling around her face. The ceramic cup felt warm in her hands, a small piece of earth in this den of aliens who'd laughed at her species mere hours ago. The Cerellian ambassador's floating orbs darted between displays. They were hiding this technology for decades. His telepathic voice trembled. Why wouldn't they show this power earlier? Lisa set her cup down with deliberate calm. Because we're not conquerors. We build to protect, not to dominate. She gestured to the screens where human stealth ships moved with terrifying precision. But make no mistake, push us, and we'll show you exactly what we're capable of. Alarms blared through the chamber as new data streams appeared. The central hologram zoomed in on Admiral Morrison's flagship, the USN Defiance, its black matte hull absorbing sensor scans like a shadow. That ship, the Zephyrian whispered. Our scanners can't get a full read on its weapons loadout. What else are they hiding? Lisa smiled. Wouldn't you like to know? A junior Cerellian aide floated too close to the displays, his orbs wide. Battle analysis suggests the humans are using projectile weapons at relativistic speeds, the kinetic energy alone. The Phosphorian spots darkened. They're not just fighting the Vorac, they're dismantling them. On screen, a formation of human fighters executed a perfect pincer maneuver, herding 3 Vorac Ravagers into a kill zone. The railgun barrage that followed turned the alien ships into expanding clouds of debris. The Zephyrian high speaker turned to Lisa, his tendrils quivering. Your admiral, he is not accepting surrender transmissions. Lisa's smile faded. The Vorac declared all humans prey. They don't get to change the rules now that the hunt has turned. A new voice cut through the chamber's noise. Admiral Morrison's transmission broadcast across all Federation channels. Vorac fleet elements attempting to retreat will be pursued. Worldrender-class dreadnoughts are priority targets, no quarter given. The Cerellian ambassador's orbs contracted in shock. They're going for complete annihilation, Lisa met his gaze. When you show a predator mercy, you teach it to come back stronger. Humanity learned that lesson long before we reached the stars. The chamber's main doors hissed open as a group of military attaches rushed in. A Vespidian officer's exoskeleton clattered as he approached the Zephyrian delegation. High Speaker. Long-range scans detect more human vessels approaching the Cententrum defense perimeter. Every alien delegate turned to Lisa. The Zephyrian's voice was barely audible. You wouldn't dare. Lisa stood, straightening her jacket. Oh, we wouldn't dream of attacking the Federation. These are just precautionary deployments. After all, we wouldn't want any Vorac stragglers causing trouble near your precious capital, would we? The Phosphorians' bioluminescence dimmed to near darkness. This was their plan all along. Let the galaxy see them as weak, let the Vorac attack, and then reveal their true strength. On the main display, the last Vorac dreadnought exploded under concentrated railgun fire. The shockwave distorted nearby human ships for just a moment before their stealth systems compensated, making them vanish again into the void. The Zephyrian High Speaker's tendrils drooped. What are your people, Ambassador? Lisa picked up her coffee cup again, savoring the aroma before answering. Survivors. The galaxy tried to kill us before we even left our solar system. Ice, ages, asteroids, world wars. And here we stand. She took a slow sip. The Vorac made one fatal mistake. They assumed because we don't start fights, we can't finish them. A new transmission crackled through. Admiral Morrison's face appeared on every screen in the chamber. His eyes were cold, his voice measured. Vorac fleet neutralized, proceeding to Phase 2 operations. The Cerulean ambassador's orbs trembled. Phase 2? What is Phase 2? Lisa set down her empty cup, cleaning up. She walked toward the exit, pausing at the door. Oh, and High Speaker. The Federation Council will be receiving new trade and defense proposals from Earth within the hour. I suggest you read them very carefully. As the chamber doors closed behind her, the last thing Lisa heard was the Zephyrian's whispered question to no one in particular. What have we done? The bridge of the Atlantica hummed with lethal precision. Admiral Morrison watched the tactical display as the Vorac fleet shattered under the relentless human assault. Their organic-looking ships, once so terrifying to the galaxy, now burned like paper lanterns in a hurricane. All wings, press the attack, Morrison ordered. His voice was calm, almost bored. No quarter. Across the void, the remnants of Krazak's once proud hunting pack scrambled like startled prey. The Bloodclaw, his flagship, listed to starboard, its spiked hull ruptured by railgun fire. Secondary explosions rippled along its length as human torpedoes found weak points in the alien armor. On the Bloodclaw's bridge, Krazak clutched a support beam, his talons digging into the metal. His second, in command, a younger Vorac named Vrix, hissed in panic. Huntmaster, the humans, they're herding us toward the nebula. Krazak snarled. He had been the hunter for centuries, stalking weaker species across the stars. Now, for the first time in his life, he felt the cold grip of fear. Full thrust, break formation. It was too late. The Atlantica's fighter wings streaked past the crippled Vorac ships, their railguns spitting tungsten death. The human pilots moved with terrifying coordination, cutting off escape vectors, forcing the Vorac into a tightening noose. Morrison leaned forward in his command chair, open a channel to the Bloodclaw. Static crackled. Then Krazak's furious visage filled the screen. His carapace was cracked, leaking dark fluid. You think this changes anything? Human, the Vorac Empire spans 1,000 systems. We will erase your kind. Morrison smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. You had your chance. You called us prey. Now look at you. He gestured to the tactical display, where the last of Krazak's fleet burned. Running scared, Krazak's mandibles twitched. We are Vorac. We do not surrender. Good, Morrison said, because I wasn't offering. The channel cut, the Atlantica's main battery cycled up with a deep, resonant hum. On the Bloodclaw, Vrix's claws scraped uselessly at the controls. Their weapons are locked. We can't. The first railgun round punched through the bridge viewport. Krazak had time to see the tungsten projectile, a blur of death, before it vaporized Vrix in a spray of chitin and fluid. The second shot took the Bloodclaw's reactor. The explosion lit up the nebula like a dying star. Morrison watched the fireball dissipate. All ships, status report. Vorac fleet is neutralized, Admiral, came the reply. No survivors. A quiet settled over the Atlantica's bridge. Not the silence of uncertainty, but the calm of a predator after the kill. Then the comms officer turned. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Federation Council. They're demanding an immediate ceasefire. Morrison snorted. Tell them we'll consider it after we're done. The officer hesitated. Sir, they sound scared. Morrison's smile returned. Good. Across the battlefield, human ships regrouped. Their black matte hulls bore no scars. Their weapons still humming with untapped fury. The Vorac had thought them weak. The Federation had laughed at their steel. Now the galaxy would learn the truth. A truth written in fire and blood. Krazak's final transmission played on loop in Morrison's mind. We never stood a chance. No, they hadn't. And neither would anyone else who dared threaten humanity again. The Atlantica turned its prow toward the next Vorac-held system. The hunt, as the aliens had said, was only just beginning. But this time, the humans were the hunters. And they were very, very good at it. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Federation had never been so silent. The floating holograms that usually displayed trade routes and diplomatic summits now showed only the wreckage of Vorac fleets burning across 3-star systems. Ambassador Lisa Hayes stood at the center of the circular platform, her polished black shoes clicking against the floor as she walked toward the Zephyrian high speaker's pod. The alien's frilled neck crest lay flat against his scaled skin, a sign of submission among his kind. You were saying something about watching the Vorac swallow our worlds? Lisa asked, tilting her head. Her voice carried through the chamber like a knife. The Cerulean delegates' floating orbs darted nervously. Ambassador Hayes, surely you understand our position. The Vorac have been the dominant military power for centuries. We couldn't risk helping the weak little humans. Lisa finished for him. She tapped a command into her wrist display. The holograms shifted, showing the USN Defiance in high orbit over Cententrum, its black matte hull bristling with railgun batteries. Tell me, high speaker, do we look weak now? A phosphorian diplomat rose from its gel-filled pod, bioluminescent patterns flashing across its translucent skin in distress. You deceived the entire galaxy, your ships, your technology. None of it matched our intelligence reports. Lisa smiled. That was the point. The chamber doors hissed open. Admiral Jake Morrison strode in, his boots echoing with deliberate weight. The alien delegates recoiled as if he carried the void of space itself in his wake. His uniform bore no medals, no insignia of rank, just the simple black of the United Earth Stealth Navy. Admiral, the Zephyrian croaked. We propose an immediate alliance. The Vorac threat is gone. Morrison interrupted. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Their homeworld surrendered 12 hours ago. Their remaining fleets are scrap floating between Jupiter and Mars. A murmur rippled through the chamber. The Ceruleans' orbs trembled. You took their homeworld, but the distance was irrelevant. Morrison tapped his wrist display. A star map flared to life, showing hyperspace lanes the Federation had never charted. We've been mapping alternate jump routes since before your species discovered fire. We just didn't feel like sharing. The Phosphorian's bioluminescence flickered erratically. You could have dominated the galaxy at any time. Morrison's smile didn't reach his eyes. We could have. Lisa stepped forward, her heels clicking like a countdown. The Federation has two choices. You can acknowledge Earth as a governing member with full military authority, or, she gestured to the hologram of the Defiance, you can find out what happens when we stop being polite. The chamber trembled as the US in Atlantica locked its orbital cannons on the capital. The message was clear. The Zephyrian high speaker bowed his head, his frills pressed so flat they nearly disappeared. The Galactic Federation accepts Earth's terms. Morrison turned to leave, then paused at the door. One more thing. He didn't look back as he spoke. The next time you consider dismissing a species as weak, remember this moment. Remember that humanity let you live because we chose to, not because you could have stopped us. Lisa followed him out, leaving the delegates in stunned silence. The hologram still showed the Defiance, its railguns humming with barely restrained power. As the doors sealed behind them, Morrison finally let out a breath. Think they got the message? Lisa smirked. Oh, they got it. The whole galaxy will by morning. Above them, the black, matte fleet held position, silent, patient, and utterly unstoppable. Morrison keyed his comm. All ships, stand down for now. The last transmission from the Federation chamber played over the bridge speakers, the Ceralian's voice shaking with something no alien had ever directed at humanity before. We weren't hiding because we were weak, Morrison said to the stars. We were hiding because we were kind.